It was supposed to be just another quiet night shift, a routine patrol, an ordinary traffic stop. But what started as a minor pullover on a dimly lit road beside a gas station turned into a moment that would haunt one officer's record forever, because the woman he stopped wasn't just another civilian. She was one of the highest-ranking black female judges in the state, and that badge he flashed at her, she outranked it 10 times over. This story isn't about yelling. It's not about violence. It's about authority, dignity, and how a single moment of prejudice can flip a man's career upside down. Stay until the end, because what happened that night sent ripples through an entire department, and it's far from over. It was around 10:48 p.m. Federal Judge Monique Harris had just finished a long evening session downtown. She was driving home in her black Mercedes-Benz, dressed in a dark blazer, briefcase on the passenger seat. She pulled into a local gas station to fill up. Calm, confident, tired, a sheriff's cruiser pulled in behind her, lights flashing blue and red. A white deputy in his early 30s stepped out, hand near his belt. No smile, no greeting. "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle," he said sharply. Judge Harris turned slowly, raising an eyebrow. "Is there a problem, officer?" "License and registration." "Step out of the car, please." "For what reason?" she asked, remaining calm. "Your taillight is out." She looked back at the taillight, still glowing red. "I don't believe it is," she said. He stepped closer, out of the vehicle. "Now." She opened the door slowly, stepping out with her hands visible. No sudden movements. She pulled a slim black wallet from her coat pocket and opened it. Inside, her federal credentials. "I am Judge Monique Harris, Federal District Court. Do you have a reason to detain me?" The deputy stared at the ID, then at her. He seemed caught off guard, then defiant. "How do I know this isn't fate?" She looked him directly in the eyes. "Because I told you it isn't. And you just made the worst mistake of your night." He paused. She continued, voice calm but firm. "You pulled over a federal judge without probable cause, without identifying yourself properly, and escalated without justification." The gas station attendant inside peeked through the window. Sensing tension, a second officer pulled into the lot. The first deputy's face turned pale. "Before we go further, if you believe that authority must be respected regardless of race, hit the like button. If you're tired of seeing black professionals disrespected in positions of power, subscribe and join this community. We share stories that matter. Real stories." "Your badge number," she said. Now, the deputy hesitated, then mumbled it. She pulled out her phone and began recording, not shouting, just documenting. The second officer approached. "Is there a problem here, ma'am?" "Only that your colleague has chosen to stop a federal judge without cause," she replied. The second officer's eyes widened. "Your Honor, I wasn't aware." "That's the point," she interrupted. "You don't assume authority over people because of how they look or what they drive. You ask, you assess, you behave." The first deputy remained silent, now visibly nervous. A crowd began to gather. The gas station cameras were rolling. 15 minutes later, a police supervisor arrived. He approached her with respect. "Your Honor, we deeply apologize for any inconvenience or misconduct." Judge Harris looked at the deputy. "I'm not looking for apologies. I am looking for accountability." She turned to the supervisor. "This officer needs retraining. He needs to understand who he's policing and how. Because one more night like this, and it won't just be an apology, it'll be legal action." The supervisor nodded. The crowd clapped. She got back into her car, closed the door, drove off slowly. But she didn't leave quietly. She left a warning. By morning, the video was already on local news. The gas station footage went viral. The deputy was placed on temporary leave. City council meetings echoed with protest and praise. Some backed the officer. Most backed the judge. She didn't seek fame. She didn't hold a press conference. She let the law speak. But behind the scenes, there was more to the story, because that wasn't the first time this deputy had escalated without cause. And it wouldn't be the last unless someone stopped him. And just a week later, that same deputy put someone else over. But this time, there was no judge, no cameras, no crowd, just a young man, alone, scared. And what happened next was even worse. It was 11:15 p.m. on a quiet suburban highway. Jeremiah Thomas, 22, gripped the steering wheel of his battered sedan as the rhythmic hum of tires on asphalt filled the silence. The night was calm, almost too calm, a typical late summer evening when the world seemed paused, waiting. Jeremiah's thoughts drifted to the small dreams he guarded fiercely. Finishing college, landing a steady job, and finally leaving this town behind for good. His shift at the local diner had been long and tiring, but he didn't complain. School and work weren't easy juggling acts, but they were necessary. He pictured the life he wanted, something better, something brighter. The flickering glow of a convenience store's neon sign passed on his right. Just as Jeremiah relaxed, the sudden flash of red and blue lights shattered the calm behind him, illuminating the rearview mirror like a harsh spotlight. "Pull over," came the gruff voice from the sheriff's cruiser behind him. Jeremiah's heart skipped. He slowed immediately, pulling onto the shoulder of the empty road. The highway stretched out dark and desolate on either side, shadows swallowing everything beyond the reach of the street lamps. He didn't know it yet, but the man behind the wheel of the cruiser was Deputy Tom Reynolds, the same officer who had made headlines just weeks earlier after humiliating a black federal judge on live television. A video that sparked outrage but led to no consequences. Jeremiah had no badge, no authority, no protection, only his youth, his black skin, and a system that all too often saw him as a threat. The cruiser came to a stop inches behind him. The heavy door slammed. Footsteps approached. Reynolds stepped into the beam of Jeremiah's headlights, his face unreadable, eyes cold and sharp, license and registration. Reynolds ordered, his tone clipped and demanding. Jeremiah's hands trembled as he reached into his pocket, fumbling for his wallet. The air felt thick, every second stretching longer than the last. Reynolds didn't wait. He circled the car like a predator, his gaze scanning every inch. Then, without warning, the deputy's hand shot through the open window, grabbing Jeremiah's arm with an iron grip, out of the vehicle. Now, Jeremiah's body froze. Confusion and fear tangled inside him. He had done nothing wrong. His voice caught in his throat. Slowly, he opened the door and stepped out, raising his hands instinctively. The cold night air bit at his skin as Reynolds roughly forced handcuffs onto his wrists. Jeremiah's protests were met with a harsh bark. "I didn't do anything," he stammered, voice barely audible. "Shut up," Reynolds snapped. A passerby, Tamara Green, was making her final delivery of the night, her truck rolling slowly past the scene. Something about the way Reynolds manhandled the young man made her heart pound. Quietly, she pulled out her phone and started recording, her hands shaking. "Hey, what's going on?" she called out. Reynolds ignored her, his eyes hardening. Jeremiah was shoved onto the curb, cuffed and scared. Alone in the dark, there were no drugs, no weapons, no cause, but Reynolds claimed he smelled marijuana and had reasonable suspicion. There was no body camera footage from the cruiser, no official record of what followed, only the shaky video Tamara captured. Tamara's video quickly spread through Jeremiah's family and local civil rights groups. The footage was disturbing. The rough treatment, the unjustified aggression, the sheer lack of respect or humanity. The community's outrage grew, but Tamara's courage came at a cost. One late night, her delivery truck was vandalized. The windows shattered, tires slashed. A chilling note was left on the windshield. "Keep your mouth shut." Fear clenched her heart, but Tamara refused to be silenced. She reached out to a local journalist, Malik Davis, known for exposing injustices. Malik was moved by her bravery and began digging into Reynolds' history. What Malik uncovered was more terrifying than anyone expected. Public records revealed Reynolds had a history riddled with complaints. 3 separate accusations of excessive force, all dismissed under suspicious circumstances. 5 years ago, Reynolds arrested a black man named Darius Colburn on a minor charge. Hours later, Darius was found dead in custody. Official reports claimed natural causes, but confidential medical records leaked to Malik told a very different story. Darius' autopsy showed extensive bruising, injuries consistent with a severe beating. The community's outrage turned into a firestorm. How had Reynolds been allowed to remain on the force? How had his previous misconduct been ignored? What price had been paid for that silence? Judge Monique Harris, the very same federal judge publicly humiliated by Reynolds weeks earlier, stepped forward. She refused to let Jeremiah's case become another forgotten tragedy. At a packed press conference, she spoke with unwavering resolve. Justice is not a privilege, it is a right. When those sworn to uphold the law betray the trust, they must be held accountable. Judge Harris announced the formation of a special task force to investigate Reynolds and the department's handling of his past. But standing up for justice drew threats. Her phone rang with anonymous calls filled with venom. Strange cars circled her home late at night. Her family grew anxious. The system was fighting back and fiercely. City officials quickly released statements defending Reynolds, accusing Judge Harris of politicizing the issue. Rumors spread of Reynolds having powerful allies behind the scenes. The police union launched a quiet campaign to protect him. Internal affairs investigations stalled. Inexplicably, evidence vanished. The fight for truth became a war against a deeply entrenched culture of silence and protectionism. Just when hope seemed dim, a surprise ally emerged. Detective Lisa Monroe, a 10-year veteran renowned for her integrity, joined the task force. Lisa brought with her a breakthrough, a hidden body cam, recording from Reynolds' cruiser on the night Jeremiah was stopped footage, never reported or logged, coupled with testimonies from other young black men who had suffered Reynolds' abuse but feared speaking out. This evidence cracked open the case. Detective Monroe's work exposed Reynolds for what he was, a serial abuser of power, enabled by a culture that chose silence over justice. But the investigation revealed something far more sinister. Documents uncovered a shadow network within the department, officers involved in illegal acts, including evidence tampering, planting, and intimidation tactics. This network protected Reynolds for years, shielding him from accountability. The scale of corruption stunned even the most seasoned advocates. With mounting public pressure and damning evidence, a grand jury convened. Reynolds was suspended pending criminal charges. Judge Harris vowed, "We will not rest until every officer who abuses their power is held accountable." But as hope grew, a chilling message arrived for Judge Harris. "You're next." A shadowy figure was seen watching her home from a distance. The battle for justice was far from over. The fight against systemic abuse and racial injustice requires courage from witnesses like Tamara, whistleblowers like Detective Monroe, relentless advocates like Judge Harris, and every citizen who refuses to turn a blind eye. If you believe in justice and the power of truth, stand up, share the story, raise your voice. Together, we can shine light into the darkest corners. Don't miss part 2. If you believe stories like this must be told, help us spread them. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to be reminded that black excellence is not a threat, it's a reality. We'll be back with the next chapter, but until then, stay aware, stay strong, stay proud.